Hey friend, welcome to the Coach B Experience podcast. We have another action-packed, value-stacked, real and raw episode for you. Remember, it does not benefit you to just listen. I want you to remember 3 things. Take fast action, get a result, and grow from your experiences. You have power in your choice. Let's dive into today's experiences. All right, everybody, welcome to the Coach B Experience. I have Rob here with me, Rob Kowalski. I hope that's your name right.
Yeah, that's good. Kowalski. It all works.
I have the same problem too, Rob. Like my name Bertrand Nagampa. I always tell everybody to call me B because they're like, Bert what? And I'm like, just call me B. It's okay. But yeah. So Rob, tell everybody. So you just got back from a trip from Israel. How was that?
Yeah. Oh, life-changing. It was an amazing trip.
Nice.
Bucket list. It was on my bucket list, and then my
church bucket list.
Yeah, that they were going, and I got the opportunity to go. So it was really awesome. Just, a lot of context, obviously, a lot of history. I mean, just seeing the actual places where the stories took, the actual places, and to be able to walk in them where the stories took place, and then to hear a lot of the context around each of the stories that you don't even know, because we had a Jewish tour guide, and he was he was very well versed on all the Bible stories and all the history, and just really brought the stories to life, I guess.
Yeah. Nice. So Ed asks, what was like the most memorable or like the best thing you'll say, I probably will never forget this the rest of my life?
I got baptized into Jordan, and that was pretty special. Obviously because it was, where Jesus got baptized, but I was also two of my best guy friends baptized me. So that was a special moment. But I think the Garden of Gethsemane was pretty heavy. We got some time to break off and pray on our own, and then the Garden Tomb was really special to me. And I think Caesarea Philippi, I think I pronounced that right. That was pretty. Just learning the history behind that, and like what Jesus meant when he said that he was going to build his church on that rock, meaning that the rock where this pagan temple was, not Peter, which is what a lot of people think, including me. I used to think that too. But those were probably the most special moments. But I'm still processing. It was like information overload for about 11 days. So you just kind of try to take it all in, and then you start thinking about things after you get back one by one. So
yeah. No doubt. So and then Rob, we do know you're the founder of City Fam. So tell me a bit more about City Fam as well.
Sure. So my backstory is I was a nightclub promoter and a stripper for most of my adult life. Well, at least a good part of my 20s. And
Magic Mike before Magic Mike.
Yeah, I was the original Magic Mike. So, I didn't think about God. I always have to preface my story to say City Fam's not faith-based. My story doesn't have faith. But I, became a Christian at 27. I had a radical conversion experience, got baptized in the Holy Spirit, was not looking for God, thinking about him. My God was pleasure. I had a lot of sex, a lot of casual sex, drugs. Yeah. It was just debauchery. And I liked being me. I really did. And when I was 27, God called me. I did this radical 180. Life got very boring after that. I went from having a really active social life to having nothing to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is what, I am a fundamentalist. So when I really became aware of the truth, I became abstinent. So I went from being the most promiscuous guy I know to being abstinent for the next 6 years. And I was started, within a relatively short amount of time, I started to miss having a social life. I had to cut off most of my sources of fun were wrong. They were girls, drinking, drugs, going out, bars, whatever it was. Yeah. And I cut all that off, and now I was like, okay, what do I do now for fun? And I couldn't find a group of people to plug in with. I was like, where do the cool Christians hang out? Basically. And I went to some Christian coffee houses, and they were super lame, and there just was nothing out there, and I couldn't find a group. So for 6 years, I just kind of sheltered myself. I white knuckled it. I thought if I could stay out of trouble long enough, sooner or later, God would give me a wife, and then I would these feelings of loneliness I was having would take care, would go away because I'd be married.
Yeah.
Now he didn't send her. So 6 years I go through this period, and I'm just, going to the movies or whatever I can on the weekends to try to avoid trouble. And then after a while, I just ran out of gas, and I gave myself some freedom. I started going back to the bars a little bit because I just wanted to enjoy life again.
Yep.
And one by one started picking up my bad habits, backslid really hard. Basically, over the next few years, I became pretty much the same person I had been before I became a Christian, except now it was a lot worse because I was guilty. I felt I had this guilty conscience because I knew that God was disappointed in me. So I rededicated my life in 2011, and I got sober a few months after that. But it was the exact same thing for the next year, where I was staying in every night, renting Redbox. I apologize. I lost you there for a second.
No, it's all good.
So I was renting Redbox movies every night by myself, and this went on for about a year. And I said, I thought to myself, well, first off, I was pissed. I was like, what? I thought about this verse. Jesus says, "I come that they might have life in abundance." And I was like, I don't know about this abundant life. Stuff. I said, but my life is not abundant. My life sucks. I was like, I was happier before I was a Christian, and I was complaining to somebody, and they said, well, you were a promoter, why don't you start putting on events, social events, to give yourself something to do. And that's exactly what I started doing. I just started organizing what we call Fun Without Regrets events. And it was kind of for selfish purposes, but I also knew that I started to see the lives of my former friends falling apart. Like they weren't doing so well anymore from all the bad decisions. And I was trying to get them to get sober or come to church with me, or just trying to help them in whatever way I could. And I couldn't get them to the places that had the help that they needed. But I knew that I could get them to a social event. That was a lot easier for me to get them to a social event. And I could get my friends from church to that same social event because they were bored like I was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you get the two people together, that's where the magic happens, because you see somebody that, maybe they're struggling with an addiction or some behavior that's not serving them. But when they get around healthy people, they start to figure it out, right? So right around this time, I was doing a lot of volunteering through my church. It was really healing me. I was liking myself again. And I, basically started organizing service events because I knew that my friends that weren't, religious, they weren't going to come to the church, sponsored coat drive or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I started organizing service events. So I had the social events going, and then we started organizing service events. And really, we kind of came up with this ladder where that's kind of how we help people self-actualize and become the best version of themselves, is get them to a social event with some healthy people, get them volunteering so they start to feel good about themselves in a different kind of way. And you'll see their life change, and that's really, and then it eventually became City Fam. At first, we didn't even know what it was. We were just out there, just a group of people doing stuff. And, we really believe it has the power to help a lot of people, so that's basically what City Fam is.
Nice. I didn't even know it was not faith-based. That's pretty cool. The fact I was actually checking it out, doing some research. I was like, oh, this is dope. I need to come up here. So I know,
yeah, for sure.
I know the biggest thing is that you want to open up some more chapters, right? In City Fam, like, be like worldwide. Not world. I mean, worldwide, right? Would be
yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah.
We want to take it worldwide.
Yeah. But I know there was and also there was a big change with you. With everything that you did. But I think a lot of single men follow in the same category as you. Like, you, at first you're having a lot of fun, right? Living this life outside of these, you're like having all this fun. Then you kind of like the truth hits your head, and you're like, okay, boom, I shouldn't be doing this. And then you're like, what should I do? Besides, okay, I shouldn't have sex. I'm gonna go to church. How do I live a life outside of all that? How do I actually go engage in people, and like, how far should I go? How can I build healthy relationships? So walk us through, like, as a single man, like, what have you done to get yourself back on that path besides, you said the service, I know you said volunteering, but what else have you doing outside to like cultivate good relationships with outside of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously faith community is super important. I tell people find a good church because it's going to be crucial, and then once you find a good church, you got to find a small group, really. You got to get into a small group and start doing life with those people. And I tell people, my suggestion is just date a church. Go to a different church every different Sunday until you find one that you love. And then once you find one, start dating small groups. Go to a different small group every week until you find one that you love. And then, you get plugged in, and then start serving, giving back. That to me is really what builds great relationships, is sacrifice. Like it requires some effort and some pain. You got to show up for people. If somebody's sick, maybe you call them or you take them some soup or something, or if they're moving, you show up and help them move. It requires something. Like, you don't just have great relationships without showing up, so you have to do that. And I really see it's the same as any other discipline. You see people out there that are lonely or depressed, but they're not sacrificing for other people. So it's the equivalent of being a fat person. Like, you should go to the gym, you got to put the work in, and if you don't do it, guess what? You're going to be out of shape. So, like, if you want great relationships, you got to be there for people. You got to sacrifice for them. And I learned that lesson myself, because when I got out of the club scene, I was probably the most popular person in my town for a while. And can I cuss or no? No,
go ahead. It's fine.
Okay. When the shit hit the fan, I found out very quickly I didn't have many friends. I had a lot of people I partied with that knew who I was, but I didn't have real friends. And that's really what City Fam was built on. It was like, hey, look, we're not just going to be there when it's fun, for each other. We're going to be there for each other. Yes, we're going to have a good time, but we're going to be there for each other even when it's not fun. We're going to sacrifice, because I want real friends. I want to be able to know that people have my back. I don't want to have to, worry about some guy hitting on my girlfriend when I go to the bathroom, which is what the culture was like when I was in the bar scene. It was a bunch of people using each other, and then when it wasn't fun anymore, guess what? They're gone. So I didn't want that, because I experienced that kind of pain. So, I'm in a small group. Actually, I lead a small group. I'm heavily involved in my church. And then I just, I try to be there for my friends when they need me, and add value as often as I can. And then what happens is, in turn, now I got a group of friends that are making all my dreams come true, because everything that I'm doing is too big for me to do by myself. So whether it's them, being members, giving the City Fam their time or money or whatever, I have all these friends that have gotten me to this point that I could have never gotten this far by myself. And I honestly believe, like, that's how God wired it. We all have, weaknesses and blind spots, and he'll give you a dream that's so big that you cannot accomplish it by yourself, that you're going to need the help of other people. But the only way you're going to get that help is if you're a good friend yourself. So
yeah, no, at our church we always say strategic fellowships are essential to every believer, and I think that is important too. Like, there is friendships that you need to build, because I think a lot of Christians, we kind of, if we're not in the perfect situation, we close off, and we're like, no. This is going to be me. All I need is Jesus. And it's like, even Jesus had 12. Yeah. Then on top of that, he had other people around him. He the main 12 that we know. But then he always had people around him, counsels of people around him. So it's always important. Now, I got to say, one thing I love, though, because I've been reading your book, and the one thing I love is that it's not a book that comes from a standpoint of, like, you're on the mountaintop and you're just, like, coming down like Moses, like, here's the 10 commandments, you gotta follow them. It's more of like you're on the same level and you're like, hey, look, I love sex and I'm lonely, but I know I shouldn't have sex, so I'm not gonna have it. What caused you to say, you know what, I'm gonna openly open up my life, right? And I'm gonna share this about me, and I'm gonna share these stories. I'm gonna open up. What really told you, like, you know what, write this book, do this?
Right.
Push you to do that.
Well, yeah. So first off, I didn't understand the concept at all when I started. So, I was very promiscuous. God called me. And I remember thinking, like, why is that? To me, sex was like a massage. I was like, why is this wrong to do this? If I'm making this person feel good, they're making me feel good. What's wrong about it? I remember having that thought process. And it was only in time that I began to understand it. And I think it really came because I lived on one side, then I became abstinent for a long time, and then I went back. And then I came back again. And somewhere in the process, I just figured it out completely. And now I can explain it better than anyone on earth, I believe. So I really want to help people understand it, because I think that when you understand something, you're a lot more likely to do it. If you didn't know the benefits of working out, you wouldn't go to the gym because it's painful, right? But when hey, this gets me a six pack if I do this, then you're like, okay, I'll go through that process of pain. So I want people to understand it's not just a spiritual or biblical thing. It is that. But it's also practical. Like, it's so practical. And when people understand it, maybe they'd be more likely to do it, and they can avoid some of the pain and waste of time that I experienced. That was the first reason. The second reason that I love talking about it because I do have such a firm grasp of it. And every time I talked about it with friends, I would get really fired up. I would get really passionate. And I could feel like God was doing something there. Like, because I enjoyed it. And I was really trying to get the word out about City Fam because people didn't understand what City Fam was just from like the pictures and the stuff that we post. But when I talk about it, they get it. But I wasn't being given opportunities to talk about it because I'm just like, who am I? But so I thought, well, you know what? If I write a book about sex, which is probably the only thing I could write a book about, it'll give me a platform. It automatically will open some doors up because when you say the author of such and such, that's like instant credibility. So I really wrote it for that purpose because I'm like, I want to be able to talk about City Fam, and it's such a perfect tie-in because once you understand the practicality of waiting and you set out to do it, you learn very fast that you need real friends, not just bullshit, party friends. You need some real friends to do life with because you just cannot make it. I needed friends like I needed air, that's how it became. Because when I always had a girl to hop to, this girl, that girl, I didn't really need friends.
Yeah, it's so much easier. Yep.
My need for community went way down because it was no big deal. But once I set out and said, no, I'm doing this, man, I needed friends like I needed air. And then I had to cultivate those friendships, which in turn turned me into a better version of myself and then pushed me to reach my full potential. So, I think it's a natural tie-in because once people become convinced, then City Fam for me is that way to cultivate that group of friends. It's like, because at the end of the day, Friday night, Saturday night rolls around, you're going to need something to do. And, I even see it in the church world. A lot of those people aren't doing much. They're just sitting around, and if you're single in the church world, and a little bit older, you are the forgotten group. They have stuff for married people. They have stuff for the youth. But when you're like 30 years old, 40 years old, and you're single, there ain't nothing for you to do, right?
True.
So you're
There's nothing.
Yeah. And when I set out, I would stay in for 3 months and then I would go out to a bar because I would get so pent up with this, I just wanted to be around people. And then I'd smoke a couple cigarettes or something. Or I'd feel like a girl flirting with me and I'd get scared and I'd stay in for another 2 months. And I went through the same pattern and I was like, I see it happen so much now in the church world. And I'm like, look, City Fam, we're going to fix that because it's impossible for you to go through that wilderness period alone. You have to have a tribe. You have to have a support group, or you'll either get on, you'll date out of loneliness, you'll go back to your vice, whether it's drinking, drugs, whatever it is, porn. I mean, whatever it is. Without community, you will not make it. It's even hard to do with community. I mean, I have community and I struggle, man. It's freaking hard, but it's possible with community when you have good friends, and that's why I think the book is such a natural tie into City Fam because the book convinces you that it's the right thing, and then City Fam gives you the tools to actually make it, which is, the people. So
Rob, I gotta say, I love the way I don't want to say like the way you do Christianity, but your natural, because if you read the book and then you talk to the way I'm talking to you, you see that like it's not two people, it's like one person. You know what I mean? You're so real. You're so open. So when I explain it now, being in the church, you find that like a lot of people are churchy, very. Oh no, I can't do that. Oh no, but then they kind of live a double life. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So for you, what made you just say, you know what? Hey, look, this is me. This is Rob. I love Jesus, but I'm still gonna be me. I curse sometimes. Hey, look.
Yeah.
The topics that you speak on, especially sex, like that's like almost like a forbidden topic in church. Church folks don't want to talk about it, but they're like, don't have sex. And then that's it. There's nothing else to talk about. So for you, like what made you say, you know what? I like this. I'm going to be more open. I guess I'm giving you more than 2 questions, but first let's talk like your openness, just you being you 100%, especially you being you. And how did you cultivate that? At first, were you like every other Christian? Like,
100%.
Okay. So what pushed you to get out of that shell?
Yeah. So when I got saved, I was super self-righteous because I went from being the worst person I knew, but really didn't know that I was bad. I mean, I kind of knew, but I didn't really have that. I didn't have a strong like conscience or much moral conscience at all, I guess. So, I did this radical 180 and I quit everything. So I was very self-righteous. I had all the verses memorized about why you were going to hell if you didn't stop sinning. And I used to tell people, I kicked a girl out of my Bible study because she was having sex with her boyfriend. And, you know, I knew, I knew the passage. And so I was, you know, I was in a box because I thought that that's how I had to act. Like, you know, every other, you know, just basically what you see. And
True.
after a while, it just became such a heavy burden. And number one, like, I backslid. So when I backslid, I experienced the pain, you know, the way I felt about myself, the way, you know, the guilt, you know, just all the bad, and, you know, of course, all the practical things that happen with my own relationships and everything else. So I learned that pain for me, you know, what it was like when I was not living in the center of God's will, or at least attempting to. So I didn't want to go back to that. So when I rededicated, that was a strong motivation for me to be abstinent and be abstaining from sex. It was also the call of God on my life, because he told me some things about how he wanted to use me. And it was like, okay, you know, in order to do that, I have to walk the walk. You know, I can't just, I can't be lukewarm, which, to be, in all honesty, without that call of God on my life, I would be having sex. You know, I just know myself, and I wouldn't be able to walk this line because it is that hard. But when it comes to, you know, like, I don't have any conviction over cussing personally. So to me, it's nothing. You know, the word shit is in the Bible. People don't know that. It's the equivalent of it. It was scubula, which was a very vulgar word. And Paul used it. He said, I consider all things dog shit for the sake of knowing Christ. Now, how you say that that's a sin if it made it in the Bible? You know what I mean? Like, Paul used cuss words for emphasis. So I like to use them for emphasis too. Number one, it's authenticity. People want authenticity right now more than they want anything. So when you get all these prepackaged church people that are like, you know, robots up there, people don't respond to that, man. They just want to know, like, you know, be yourself. If you're pissed off, be pissed off. I mean, for me, cussing, I'm not going to, now if I call you a dummy, that would be way worse than me saying shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about the intent, your heart behind it. So, but, you know, having sex outside of marriage, that really will jack your life up. You know, me stubbing my toe and saying shit ain't going to do nothing to anybody. You know, like, so I like to separate things that matter from things that don't matter, so people can start to realize the difference. Like, hey, there's a difference in being religious and just not being a dummy. You like, and doing things that are going to, you know, jack your life up. So I don't know. And I prayed a lot about it, you know, even about the cussing, just because you know, I've gotten a lot of negative feedback from church people. But I also have the #1 video in the world on waiting to have sex, and it's got a couple cuss words in it. I just feel like people respond to it better because they're like, at least you're being real, you know? So, and then as far as the sex goes, you know, I think a lot about the word, and, you know, anytime they reference sexual immorality, they put it in a class all of its own. You know, it says, flee from sexual immorality. All their sins a person commits outside the body, but a person that sins sexually sins against their own body. There's a reason for that, because that, like, sex outside of marriage is that devastating to your hopes and your dreams and everything, that it classifies it that way for a reason, because it has that much potential to destroy your life. And it did mine for a while. So I feel like if, you know, if I can be authentic and help people see that there's it's not just, you know, religious. It's not like a religious thing. It's actually going to benefit your life, that people, you know, it just gets through. The message gets through.
No, true. I agree. I think nowadays, especially with everything that's going on, especially with social media, how everything is so open, I think nowadays people want to see people that are people. They don't want somebody from the mountaintop. They want someone that's just like them, that knows where they've been and that understands, like, okay, hey, look, I totally understand where you're coming from. I've been there before. And it's like, really? Like, yeah, I'm going to say shit just like the way you say shit. Like, I feel the same things you're feeling at night, you know, except I just choose to say no. Now for you, how do you safeguard yourself? You know what I'm saying? From like going out, or maybe even getting too close to somebody, you know what I'm saying? Because it's so easy. Like, you may be having a good conversation with a female. It's like, okay, how do you disconnect from your body saying, like, go ahead and peace? Like, go.
That's a good question. You know, I keep very good boundaries. And for the past, so basically the first 6 years I was a Christian, I was abstinent, and I backslid inadvertently. I just, you know, like I said, gave myself too much freedom, and ended up making a mistake. And then once I made that one mistake, it became very easy to make other mistakes. So when I rededicated my life about I guess it was 6.5 years ago, almost 7 years ago, I was good for about 3.5 years. And then I was hanging out with a girlfriend and we were just friends. She was attractive. I was physically attracted to her. I know she was to me as well. But we had never even held hands or kissed or anything. And I thought that I was stronger than I was, I guess. And, you know, one day we were just watching TV. We started making out and I just could not pull the emergency brake. I thought I could. And I couldn't. And we end up having sex. And from that point on, which was again almost 4 years ago, I have not spent time alone with a female. So I might ride in a car with a girl or go to a movie, but I will not have a girl at my house or be at her house, just because in order to walk this line, you have to be vigilant. I mean, now look, my boundaries don't have to be your boundaries. Given my past, those have to be my boundaries. And I tell you, they're exhausting to maintain. I went home last night, you know, after we had a City Fam event, and I go home every night by myself. I haven't cuddled a girl in 4 years. I haven't spooned. I haven't had a girl run her fingers through my hair and tell me everything's going to be okay. It sucks. I mean, honestly, it sucks. It sucks, but it's safe. And in order to fulfill the call of God on my life, it's just what I have to do. And I'll be honest. I went home last night and I was depressed, man. I was like, you know, complaining to God. I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, I'm ready to, you know, this has been a long.
Ready to be married.
Yeah, I want to be married. The Bible says it's better for a man to marry than burn with lust. And sometimes I burn, not even sometimes, I burn with lust a lot. I'm not saying this is easy. This is not easy. And it's been super challenging for me. You know, people say pray and God will take that desire away. It hasn't worked for me. You know what I mean? And he hasn't said it either. And I get in these conversations with her. I'm like, God, this is unfair. Like, you know, either take the desire or give me a wife, but, you know, just to let me continue through this process. But at the same time, it's the best decision I've ever made. Second to following Christ was becoming abstinent, because I would have never wrote the book. I would have never started City Fam. It's produced all these amazing things in my life because, number one, I had to rechannel that energy into doing something else. When, you know, chasing girls, or even if you're with a girl, just investing in that relationship, it takes up a lot of time and energy. And when you don't have that, man, you can get a lot done because, you know, you can harness it and use it for other things. And that's what I've done. But all that being said, I'm looking forward to it hopefully coming to an end. I'm not even dating anybody, to be honest, but I'm still hopeful that I'm going to meet her, you know, in the very near future.
Yeah. Nice. I love it. So, you know, last question before we gotta let you go, Rob, you know, and close this up is, how can people find more about you and in the book too as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. Why Waiting Works is the name of the book, and they can go to whywaitingworks.com. They can find it on Amazon. There's also, I developed a small group curriculum for the book. It's called The Truth About Sex. So it's an 8-week study guide, and it has videos to go with each week. 2 of the weeks, you actually do events. So week number 5, you do a social event. Week number 7, you do a service event. So it's really supposed to simulate what it was like for us when we started City Fam, because we were just a group of people out there trying to do the right thing, bored out of our mind. And then, you know, we started organizing social and service events. So that is available as well, you know, which is a great way for people that are on this path, or at least thinking about being on the path, to cultivate that tribe to help them get through. And then if they want to connect with me on, you know, personally, they can go to my website, robbkowalski.com. And that's how they can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And it's ROBBKOWALSKI.
I'll definitely have that in the show notes. Don't worry, you don't have to rewind.
Thanks.
Because that was a lot. I'm not going to lie. So, Rob, I want to thank you for coming out. I'm definitely going to have you back on, though, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it.
All right, everyone. Remember, like I always say, guys, it is so easy to listen to what Rob just said, but don't just listen. Take everything you heard, just one thing this week, and implement it and watch your life change. So to all you men, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Hey, my good friend. Thank you for listening. Reviews matter, so please leave us a review so other amazing people just like you can find us and listen to us. Also remember to join us in our free Facebook group so we can build a real relationship and get to know each other. And you will find other extraordinary men and women on similar journey as you. Do not forget, take action on just one thing you heard today. Get a result from that and grow from your experience from that result. You have power in your choice. Until next time, my good friend, I'll see you later. This is Coach B.